Social workers of Alabama, how you all doing today? Oh boy, looks like we're having some slow connections, but it looks like it's working out well. All right, social workers of Alabama, how y'all doing today? We're going to go on and get with it today. I I'm glad to see everybody, and we're letting the stream on in. Hope everybody can hear me okay. But let's jump into what we have to talk about today. Now, this is welcome to This Week in Supervision. And what we discuss here is some of the things that we've been talking about in supervision throughout the week. Now, I want to start off with what I talked about. We talked about this week inside the loneliness epidemic, and from professional cuddlers to social clubs to co-housing. All right. And I don't know if you have ever experienced having a client who experienced loneliness. This is a real big issue. As a matter of fact, right now, the Surgeon General declared that a loneliness epidemic is in the U.S., and it's been making progress throughout the U.S. for some time. And they've had a little bit of a reduction in it, but it sounds like it's about 52 million individuals suffering from this. As a matter of fact, daily loneliness afflicts at least 1 in 5 in the US. So 1 in 5 people that you see are having experiences with loneliness. And we know if we study loneliness and what that involves, that there's a connection with loneliness and isolation and depression, and we can't necessarily identify if it's a correlation or causation factor when we talk about isolation and loneliness, but we know there's a strong connection, and also life expectancy, which is a major thing. And I'll attach some of the clips here or some of the links where you can check into that. So loneliness is a significant thing, and so it's something that we want to include in our assessment. So when we talked to the supervisees today, we talked about this a little bit for about 30 minutes and 25, 30 minutes, and got into some other things. And so the question is if you had someone that you were working with that was experiencing loneliness, or that you thought was experiencing loneliness, how would you know that this is taking place? How would you know that it's present? Right? Do you just ask them, are you lonely? You could if you choose to, but there are some signs, some tested signs that we have come across recently that has been researched a bit, or at least some polls have been taken that help us to identify in a more in a more direct way how to identify if someone is having loneliness. And it gives us some clues as to how we need to manage this if we see someone that is experiencing loneliness. So, if you were to think about signs and symptoms of loneliness with a client that you were working with, what would you think would be an indicator of that? I want you to just think for a moment. What would you associate with loneliness? What if the client did not have the words to express? One of my supervisees was saying, hey, some of the clients just don't even have the words to express that they're lonely, but they're experiencing it, right? So how would you be able to identify that with a client? So we're gonna go into it real quick. And let me see if I can share my screen. You would be surprised at some of the answers um, based on this particular poll and what have you. So, 3 aspects of well-being related to reduced loneliness. Again, this is going to correlate with depression. It's going to, we talk about depression, that's all associated with anxiety and things like that. So we can get a lot of symptoms from this, right? And so all if you look at these answers here, and it's really hard for me to read stats, but all reduce the odds of being lonely by at least 75%. So all of these that are here, all of these reduce the odds of being lonely by at least 75% when agreeing with the statement versus disagreeing. So in other words, number one, when we're talking about loneliness, something that we want to look at is you like what you do every day. You like what you do every day. if you answered yes to that, if your client answers yes to, I like what I do every day, well, that's going to reduce the odds of them, the odds of experiencing loneliness when disagreeing actually will be 47%. So if they answered no just to that one question, there's a significant chance if any one of these is a negative, is a no for your client, then there's a significant chance that they may be experiencing some aspects of loneliness, right? And so this is what we want to be able to identify. And the thing is, I want to ask you the question. It says on you like what you do every day. So we could be talking about that you're a stay-at-home mom. We could be talking about that you're a social worker. Hopefully, you're happy what you're doing in social work. This could be any job, right? We could be talking about any job. We could be talking about social work. We could talk about a stay-at-home mom. We could be talking about someone who works in telehealth, perhaps, right? And the question is, do you enjoy doing that on a daily basis? If you don't enjoy that every day, there's a significant chance that we might be having some problems here. And so the question I want to ask you, because this is really interesting. I found it very captivating to learn. But what the heck does the job have to do with loneliness? The job. What is, and that's something that I presented to my clients, because sometimes we have to interpret for our clients, help them to interpret what their needs are. Okay. They may just be feeling a certain way, but not understanding that maybe, and see, this is giving us a cheat sheet. Maybe perhaps one of the reasons why you're feeling lonely is because you don't like your job. It's a possibility. There's a correlation. So this gives us a cheat sheet. So, but what might perhaps, and I didn't study this in detail, but we talked about this, and one of my supervisors said something really important. It said that if you're on a job that you don't like, and say, let's just say that it's toxic, you don't enjoy being there, and you don't connect with the people on the job, then you may have a whole day that you're going through where you just can't wait to clock out. I don't know if you've been on a job like that. You're watching the time. You can't wait till it's time to go home, to get away from these people or get away from this boss. And you would think, maybe if your days are like that on a daily basis, I want to try to go home. And once I get home, I'm going to get out and do something fun. But the reality is, for most of us humans, a lot of us, is that once we get home, we are so exhausted emotionally and then physically fatigued from the day that, guess what we do? Some of us will go home and have a drink, unfortunately. Some of us will fix a meal, cut on the television, go to sleep, or something like that. And so we're in isolation. So there's a connection with loneliness and isolation. Let's move on to the next one. Your friends and family give you positive energy every day. So what if I have somebody that I'm living with who is not giving me positive energy? That in itself can correlate with me feeling lonely. A lot of times we think that maybe if somebody is married, or they, already have a partner or something like that, that they wouldn't be lonely. But I was gonna play this video. I'll just put it in the chat. I forgot to do it. As we can see, when you look at this YouTube video, um, there are some things that, well, let's just go on and play a little bit. What are people doing about loneliness? Okay, and I don't know if some of you all have heard of professional cuddlers. Some people are really lonely to the point that they feel that this is necessary, because the touch of a human being is so distant and so far away that it's like, have to get, I need that. I need that. And it's interesting that most of us as children, as babies, start off appreciating touch, physical touch. And at that time, it's a need. But as we progress, as we experience socialization, as we experience the culture of the home or the culture of our environment, as we experience certain traumas, that may not be a need anymore for us. It can actually have an adverse impact, having touch for some of us, right? So let's just take a look at this video real quick. We're not going to show the whole video. I'm just going to show a quick clip. But here we have professional cuddlers, and we're going to see something maybe a little bit about social clubs and co-housing and how that's helping people who are struggling in this area.
Yes, I honestly trying to quite fall asleep instantly.
And if you fall asleep, you want to wake you up.
Yes.
Okay.
Jasmine Simone works as a professional cuddler, using the power of platonic touch therapy to help adults struggling with issues from intimacy to anxiety to loneliness. Where are we right now? We're sitting on a bed right now.
This is my day bed, and yeah, this is what we use when people want to actually engage in touch. We can touch, and we don't need to be romantically involved, and it's still a really beautiful thing.
Jasmine is on the front lines of helping a growing number of people grappling with loneliness. According to a new Gallup report, about 20% of American adults report feeling daily loneliness, highest level in 2 years. The nation's Surgeon General even saying we're in the midst of a loneliness epidemic. And chronic loneliness can affect more than just your mental health. Those are the physical toll too.
It can do everything from increase rates of high blood pressure, heart disease, increase rates of dementia, and actually decrease how long we live. It's as risky for health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Things that have fueled this feeling.
Wow.
Social connection over the last 2 decades has really changed, and our society in many ways. And technology can be a positive and a negative. It really depends on how you use the tool.
Now from sounding the alarm to finding connection. How to just be a friend.
Everything.
We're on the ground, examining the unique ways people are finding comfort.
So how does one actually go about becoming a professional cuddler?
And community.
Does the touch therapy help with addressing that?
Yeah, I found myself being nervous in certain cases, whether people were very close, like moving.
I could work with him just looking at his body language. I can see that there's some things he looks like he's closing off, maybe some anxiety.
First, do a consultation. I want to know what piqued their interest about touch and cuddle therapy. I want to know what their touch history is. There's clear understanding of having agency over your body.
So we're gonna skip past. You can watch the full video. I'll put the clip. What would we do for touch and emotional connection?
It takes like a lot of energy to go and talk to people that you don't know. You just kind of like socialize. It's like kind of like speed dating.
But Carrie isn't looking for love and romance. She's looking for friends.
You need platonic relationships in addition to romantic relationships. It's important, I think, for just like your well-being and your mental health. Humans are social creatures.
Searching for ways to branch out. She went online and stumbled upon the Girls NYC.
The Girls is an exclusive social group for women looking to make friends in their early 20s in New York City. Our mission is just to empower women to make intentional friendships and provide a space for them to do so.
Leah Seldon and Colin Kelly run this group. The duo meeting 2 years ago at one of these mixers. They're now hosting together. One rule when it comes to attending these events: you have to come alone.
It's nice because it levels the playing field in terms of vulnerability. It pushes you out of your comfort zone.
Like the Girls, similar groups catering to finding connection on the rocks, like dinner parties, even running clubs.
And then this guy here, he's actually married and started a social club for men.
No, I'm actually kind of struggling to make some friends now.
And I kind of realized something was off. Her and her girlfriends very organized, very tight knit, and a lot of my friends at the time were distant. My wife did was just encourage me to say, hey, well, if you can't find one, make one, because it's important for men to seek out friendship and build camaraderie.
Which he did just that. 2022.
All right, all right. We're gonna chop that down. So there is what they're calling. I keep wanting to say a pandemic. It's an epidemic, is what they're saying. To where it's real that many of our clients, many of our people are experiencing a disconnect with having an inability to connect with others due to certain fears, maybe some social awkwardness, variation of different things, and so people are finding resources like this to get connected, because we know one of the greatest signs of depression that we can many times observe is what? Isolation. Okay, we'll isolate ourselves. Okay, and so this was just interesting to find. We're gonna move on to the third point, if I could find it, that you might want to look at if you were looking um to find out if your client was experiencing loneliness. Okay. And so let's check this out. In the last 7 days, have you felt active and productive every day? Have you felt active or productive every day? If that's a no, if you disagree, then there's a 39% chance, I believe, that you may be experiencing loneliness, right? Okay. And so these are some things to put in perspective. So when we narrow it down, I'm kind of looking at it like this. I'm looking at when I'm talking to my clients, whether you're doing counseling, psychotherapy, or if you're doing something else like case management or something like that, their work environment. What's work like for you? It's important that you're thriving in work, or you may be lonely, and that might cause unhappiness. What's your home life like and your social life? Major thing that needs to be considered as far as being able to differentiate if someone is experiencing loneliness, right? And then lastly, are you setting goals? Okay, attainable goals, and are you feeling active? Are you feeling productive? Being a part of being productive is being able to set goals for yourself. Are you feeling like you're thriving in life? So, as a clinician, many times it's for us, we almost work as coaches to try to support them with being able to acclimate and understand. I had this one client that we had success with that was very socially awkward. I always talk about when I would get the handshake, this client would be like, right in my face, and I'm like, hey man, you kind of got to back off me a little bit when we, because that's being in the space there. And so we kind of learned how to acclimate things. And then that person hadn't been dating anybody, and then they moved on to be in a serious significant relationship, had not experienced that, man. But sometimes we have to coach them along, help them with their emotional state, help them to become confident, and this can significantly reduce loneliness, anxiety, self-esteem issues. This is how we make it happen for our clients. I'm going to stop here. Hopefully this is helpful. I will put these resources in the chat. So if you decide that, hey, this is something, not we've got thousands of people on Social Workers Alabama. So it's just a few people that's watching. So what I'm saying is, if you're a supervisor, don't be overly concerned that your supervisee saw some of the examples that I give about supervision. So then you don't want to take those ideas if you're having trouble finding ideas. They probably didn't. And even if they did see it, you can change it up. It's never the same versus me presenting it versus you. So I'm hoping that these things will be helpful for you if you're a supervisor or if you're in practice. But we're going to let you all go for this afternoon. And I appreciate you all taking a look. We'll be back on next week. Y'all have a good one until then. Bye-bye.